Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for being with us again. We are here at the Expo Riva show. My name is Alberto Mattiello. I'm part of the scientific committee of Expo Riva Shoe and Garda Bags. And I'm here with the president of the committee, that is Enrico Ceta. Ciao, Enrico.
Good morning.
So, Enrico, do you want to introduce yourself and give us some more details about what you do and even the role as a president?
Well, my competence is about market, so I'm a specialist of the fashion market. So I deal with economic data in fashion, footwear, and leather goods sector. So that's my competence, and I think that, as we said in other situation, the role of scientific committee is basically to advise the fair in order to try to be in touch what is going on worldwide in terms of innovation, in terms of market, in terms of what's going on, of course, in the footwear and leather goods sector. That is the focus of the fair.
So, what's going on?
What's going on?
Actually, you have been leading a survey last year.
Yeah.
So I think, and it was like a global survey with a lot of different associations, really from all around the globe. So, would you mind to share like the major insights that you can squeeze out of the survey?
It's a great opportunity to work with Expo Riva Shoe and Garda Bags because they have probably the largest and the most international network of partners. For example, in terms of association that represents the sector in any country that are significant in terms of or consumption of footwear or production of footwear. So actually we had the opportunity to cover exactly the entire world. And the first result at the beginning of last year, we realized that the first issue that was coming was the inflation. And the price rise, how this price rise impact the sector, impact the industry, and also how this price rise actually worried the companies, because we were in a very difficult situation. We risk to have a deflation scenario. Let me remember that deflation means basically low demand, but at the same time rising price and rising cost. So when you have this situation, it's the worst situation you can imagine when you are a brand or when you are a company, because you cannot transfer the increase of the cost in the price, because of course the consumer is not able to pay more for something that is not looking for with urgence, because of course the demand is low. At the same time you have rising cost. So just let me remember that at that time the financial situation of the companies was difficult because, of course, they had a problem of cash flow, they had a problem in terms of payments from the clients. So there was a situation very complicated, but fortunately, and we can say likely, the demand was better than expected, and this was also the principal result, the main result we had when we made the survey. The market responded much higher than expected. So the deflation scenario, let's say, was avoided, but at the same time, the rising prices were there, and we have to face inflation rate for probably the next 4-5 years.
Okay, so yeah, I don't know if you want to stay more on this, because obviously inflation, it's like a big topic for both who is operating the market and for us as consumers in the market. Yeah. So this is not something that, if I got it right, this is not something that is going to end with the pandemic, but probably this is something that is going to be with us like longer, right?
Yeah, Alberto, actually, just to remember some data, we have the last data from December. We have the 7% of inflation rate in US, then 5% in Germany, 4% in Italy, and globally, the European Union is 5%. So in the basis of the year. So after many years where you have basically inflation at 1% or sometimes negative, of course this was a shock. And the causes of this inflation rate are both on short term, but also in long term, as you said. In short term, we have to say that the inflation rate has started to rise because of the shortage in the sector. Shortage means shortage in stocks, because when the lockdown started all around the world, retail started to stop to buy, so they consume all the stocks that they have. Then when the demand started again, they were not able to restore the stocks and also give the oxygen to the demand that was starting. So let's say that of course, now we can say that at that time it was difficult to say, but probably the adjustment of the retailer was too severe, too strong, too heavy. And then when the demand restarted, then probably the offer, the supply side, was not able to bring back the same production capacity, the same stocks of raw materials, and so on. So these adjustments were very severe, and that's the first cause of this inflation rate. But this is basically a short-run reason. But then we have, of course, I think we can point out two main long-term reasons. The first one is that national government made debt in order to finance the situation during the pandemic, so they subsidized the economy, and this increased the financial debt of many national governments. Historically, from a macro point of view, you will have, after this period of increase of debt, you will have inflation. So that's why many economists believe that this inflation is something that is not just a short-run phenomenon. The second reason is that there is a shift in the sector from a technology that is more polluted to a technology that is more sustainable. But as usual, when you have this shift, the supply side adjusts with a little bit of delay in terms of demand. We have also to consider that many governments are subsidizing the conversion to sustainable production and sustainable material. So what is going to happen is that the supply of these more sustainable raw material and more sustainable technology are not able to actually to sustain such an increase of the demand, and probably this will again increase the cost of production and of course
shortages, probably.
Shortages, and of course an increase in the price of final goods.
Okay, so let's talk about market recovery. Right now we are really in the middle of the bounce back. Actually, sometimes in a lot of industries, the restart is creating more problem than probably the first stop that the pandemic created. So what do you forecast for this industry for the next 4 or 5 years? So what is going to happen? What do you see in the next future?
In order to understand what we forecast, we have just to remind a little bit what happened in 2021. We had, for example, that the United States started to recover first compared to Europe, for example. So in the first semester in 2021, United States was already running a new economic growth. Then Europe came along. China, for sure, was the market less affected, or the market that recovered faster in terms of consumption, because the system they had to control the pandemic, the phase of pandemic. And then we found we can find some hints, you know, from the recovery. For example, we know that elegant shoes, classic shoes, were recover less than casual shoes. So 2021 was for sure the year for sneakers. Luxury in China was definitely the one of the force that maintain the growth high. Luxury, because we know that in China we have a middle class that is growing in terms of number, in terms of purchasing power, of course. They are younger and they are more digitalized than other market. Then we have that this idea of the luxury market that is the engine of the growth is true worldwide, but specifically in China. But in Europe and US, we had also the low-end market that really grew a lot in 2021, and this was, of course, the effect of a statistical comparison. We have to remember that 2020 levels were very, very low, so that's why we register 10-15% of growth in 2021. But when we think at the second semester, for sure we had a slight down of the rate of growth, but not so important. So we have to say that we still have some path in order to reach the 2019 levels. We estimate that we need still 10-15% of demand to return to those levels, and probably 2022 is the year where, if not totally, but the 80%, 90%, 95% of 2019 level can be reached, can be regained again.
So let me ask you something to close this conversation with you, because going back on the same level doesn't mean that we're going back with the same business, same strategies. No, there was a lot of differences, imbalances in terms of where to put the efforts. And so let me understand if you saw, even in the survey, some differences in terms of global and local strategies. You know, we were going from a very global way of looking at the market. Right now it looks maybe something different.
Before entering this subject, I just want to remind to our public that actually what we expect for the next semester, I mean the first semester 2022, is basically more or less the same dynamic that we had in the second semester 2021. That means footwear is recovering faster than leather goods. Leather goods were penalized by the fact that there is a part of the market that is luggage and is linked to the travel situation. So in a situation where still there is a pandemic, probably that kind of sector is still penalized. So that's why leather goods recover less and recover smoother than footwear sector. What you are saying is absolutely true. There was a change, a radical change of the idea, the same idea of globalization. Actually, the last 20, 30 years were years where we had a trend towards globalization. Global market in any sense. Global in terms of sourcing, global in terms of market you have to serve as a global brand, global in sense that you have to focus in cities and in target that are large enough, so actually big cities where people, big cities means cities of network, so metropolitan cities like São Paulo, New York, Paris, and so on. So the brand were focusing in some key cities in order to cover that market. This attitude, this idea of a global market is changing. It's changing in terms of sourcing, it's changing in terms of retail, and it's changing also in terms of business model. Coming back to your question and starting with the basic business model, we have to say that retailer started to think their strategy in a different way. Smart working give us the possibility to stay at home in smaller cities where basically we used to just sleep and we didn't spend a lot of time in the cities where we live because many of the people have to travel to work. This was not happening, as not happening in the 2020 and 2021. And what happened is that people started to learn to spend spare time in this small city. Spending spare time in these small cities means also have shopping in these small cities. So many of the retail strategies try to match this new need of the consumer to have a point of sale in their own city that is not big, but is where they spend a certain amount of spare time and, of course, of their shopping experience. So in terms of business model, this was the most radical change. This means also that the retailers, big retailers, have also to understand how to do that without opening a new store, because we cannot imagine that even the largest retailer is able to cover all the small city, all the secondary city. So probably here again, the word that we see as a key word for 2022 is integration. Because the retailer has to integrate a new form, new point of sale, probably multi-brand point of sale, that give them the service to be present also in these secondary cities. And then we open a huge issue, because how they share the data, how they show a business that is not totally controlled by the retailer locally to the consumer. So there is a huge issue how retailer can integrate not only the business of small retailer, but also the data.
And we know that when there is a huge issue, there is also like a huge opportunities of finding new ways and redesigning part of the system. Enrico, thank you very much. I think there is a lot to think about. Let me just ask you something about the survey. If anyone wants to know more about the survey, where can they find the results? Do you have?
Yeah. The market survey is available in Expo Riva Shoe and Ganda Bag site, so is just registered to the visitor area. Then in the visitor area, it's possible to download the complete survey.
The final survey. Thank you very much, Enrico.
Thank you, Alberto.
It was a pleasure to have you. Thank you.
Thank you.